In the new millennium, more African American women are making a difference in today's television programming, particularly dramas and sitcoms. Unfortunately, these women are rarely recognized in the eyes of the public. Unlike producer Marcy Carsey, regarded as a pioneer among Caucasian women, Yvette Lee Bowser, who is the first African American woman to create and develop her own primetime sitcom series, has not received the accolades she has earned. I am BJ Brooks, your narrator, and together we will take a look at Yvette Lee Bowser's notable achievements in television and African American and women's history. This project will expose the success of Bowser, different points of view of the television industry, and the potential growth and success women and people of color may find within. Furthermore, this will validate Bowser's experiences and provide a new venue of recognition for her and those to follow. Whether working with other producers, actors, writers, or publicists, Yvette's strides in programming continue to impact television, women, and more significantly, Black Hollywood every day. Trying to become an executive producer of a television show is the ongoing dream of many in the industry. Unfortunately, this dream does not always become a reality, particularly for African American women.
I think that, the challenge is always just surviving. So I think it's a challenge to always be prepared, but also to deal with the whole Hollywood thing, of how, especially as a woman and as a black person, it's hard.
Rosetta Lenoir, who played Mother Winslow on Family Matters, told me that no matter how much it seemed like it had changed, there were some aspects of the business that always seemed to remain the same, and I find that to be true. She said, even though, there are more doors open, we are certainly working more, you see us more, there are some aspects where we're still pushing, we're still working, we're still struggling.
Today, there are a few female African American sitcom executive producers whose names we see on a regular basis. Sarah Finney Johnson, Yanetta Boone, Meg DeLoach, Mara Brock Akil, and Yvette Lee Bowser. Although their names are seen, their strength in the struggle is often overlooked.
Yanetta Boone, Meg DeLoach, Yvette, and Mara, and 2 years ago myself, we were all running shows on a major network, and that was history-making.
Perhaps theorist Max Weber developed the inspirational theory and charismatic leadership theory for the likes of Yvette Bowser. Inspirational theory is based upon a charismatic leader's transformational leadership. This is when the leader appeals to values and vision and enthuses others by raising their confidence and motivating them for change.
Well, obviously, I admire and respect Yvette Bowser because she's one of very few of African American females who create and who show run and have some sense of ownership. I worked for Yvette many, many years ago on Living Single. Fabulous experience. Have auditioned for Yvette several times. I think she is one of a kind. She's respected within the industry. It hasn't been easy for Yvette because there are very few in her category. But she's doing well and she's persevering and she can keep up with the others.
I think she's phenomenal. She gives a lot of people at work, and she's real loyal to people. I like that. I like when people show loyalty.
I have watched her stand up for herself, and I have such admiration for that. She doesn't mind just getting in there when she needs to. Even though she's executive producer, if she needs to write, she does it. If she, she's there. If she needs to be on stage, she leaves the office and does that.
You know, she's constantly kind of looking out for people that she can help bring with her. She is constantly trying to, especially, you know, in the African American community, she's especially trying to help open up windows and doors to create more opportunities for us to enter into the business, particularly in the production side, where a lot of us we're still very much a minority. And she's made it kind of her mission.
The charismatic leadership theory originates from the thinking that leadership comes from a compelling vision that draws in commitment and acceptance of change and offers a potential for anyone to grow and develop with the vision. This documentary is unique because until now, there has been no significant research on Yvette Lee Bowser or the other 4 female African-American sitcom executive producers. Nevertheless, the strength and determination of women such as Bowser have created a well-respected path for aspiring women of color to follow, because Ms. Bowser has certainly earned the title of role model to many. Yvette Denise Lee Bowser, executive producer of UPN's Half and Half, began her career in Hollywood much like many others, as an apprentice. Bowser studied both political science and psychology at Stanford University. While attending Stanford, she pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Upon the completion of her degree, Bowser began working on A Different World. A Different World was a spinoff of The Cosby Show, centered around the college experiences of Denise Huxtable, played by Lisa Bonet.
Well, I went from majoring in psychology and political science at Stanford into becoming a comedy writer because I thought I was going to become an attorney, and then I changed my mind. I was watching TV with a friend, and I saw the name of someone I knew on the credits of The Cosby Show. And I decided that I wanted to take a risk and learn what it was to write for television. And I tracked that person down and ended up with an apprenticeship on A Different World.
Lou Myers played the pit supervisor, Mr. Gaines, on A Different World.
Yvette was an apprentice. She wrote one of the episodes, and then next day we looked up, she was one of the regular writers and wrote regular.
I liked the show. It was a good show. Showed, you know, black people, African American people, in a positive light, going to college, struggles with college. And they ate the cafeteria food. Who ate that voluntarily? Come on now. At a black college? No. I visited a black college, and that food was subpar. They had a corn dog, a chili dog with one bean on it. I said, this is chili. Come on now.
I was an unpaid laborer. I did everything that anyone could possibly ask me to do. I wrote, I made posters, I came up with story ideas, I came up with characters, I ran errands, I got lunch, I took notes. I did everything that needed to be done. I filled every gap that needed to be filled in the production, pretty much, all for no pay from August until December, when I realized that my time was much more valuable than to be receiving no compensation. So I called Mr. Cosby and I asked him if he intended for me to receive no compensation for the rest of my time there, and he asked me what my contributions were. I let him know. And then he let production know that they needed to be paying me. I was contributing to the show.
Bowser left A Different World in 1992 with a producer title, and the series ended the next year.
Cooper, Cooper, gonna tear the house down.
That year, Yvette Bowser began working on Hangin' with Mr. Cooper as an executive producer. The show was about a single basketball coach in Oakland. It starred comedian Mark Curry, Holly Robinson Peete, Dawn Lewis, the late Nell Carter, and Raven Simone. While working on Hanging with Mr. Cooper, word got to Bowser that Warner Brothers was looking for a show with a predominantly black female cast. She submitted My Girls, the pilot episode for Living Single, which aired in 1993. It aired on the Fox network and starred Queen Latifah, Kim Coles, Erica Alexander, and Kim Fields.
I just based it on me and my friends, and growing up and being, upwardly mobile and educated and black and female. I just wanted to do a show that depicted those experiences and all of its complications and the comedy of it.
Living Single is like, who didn't want to be one of those characters? Who didn't want to be Maxine? I wanted to be Maxine. I wanted to be Erica Alexander so badly. She was just beautiful, and she was funny, and she was smart, and she was sarcastic, and I just loved that character. And I just loved the look of the show. The look was just so different. The theme song, the wardrobe, it just felt like everybody really had their own dynamic.
Working on Living Single was an experience because I was very familiar with the show, but I was working on another show at the same time, so I figured, well, I'll never have an opportunity to work on Living Single. And then her offices called my people and said that there was a role that I may be interested in, and so I read the script and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. The character was kind of an Oprah knockoff, but not really. Very, very funny bit. And Yvette, which is unusual, Yvette allowed me to do what I get paid to do, which is very unusual in this business. They know that I'm a comedian, I have a certain specialty, and they allowed me to do it, and it paid off. It was a very successful episode.
Living Single was often compared to Friends, which was on the NBC network. While many could see some similarities between Living Single and Friends, it was clear the 90s sitcom was influential on its own merit.
It was just a completely different vibe, Living Single is a hell of a lot more realistic than Friends. I mean, that these folks could have afforded that apartment that they had. But in Friends, I don't know where they got their finances. It was, obviously Living Single had an urban bent to it, but it was a crossover. It was a successful show with all audiences. The same can't be said for Friends.
After the success of Living Single, Bowser went on to produce Lush Life in 1996 and For Your Love in 1998. At this point, she was the first African-American female to have two shows on the air simultaneously. Lush Life was a show that Bowser co-created with high school friend Karen Parson, who is best known for her role as Hilary Banks on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I was at Holly's wedding, and Yvette came up to me and said, and I was still doing Fresh Prince, and she said she wanted to do a show with me as soon as this was over. She wanted to do a television show with me, and I was incredibly flattered, and at the time just kind of laughed about it. And I was like, oh, that'd be great. Didn't have anything in mind. And then I went on to later come up with an idea based loosely on a script I had started trying to write with my friend Lori Petty, who was the co-star and co-creator as well with us and producer with us of Lush Life. And Lori and I had started coming up with kind of some rough ideas, rough characters based on this other thing. And I told her, that Yvette had approached me, and so we talked to Yvette, and then when the three of us sat down and hammered out a world, and that's another place where, Lori and I went from our napkin sketches and writing this stuff out on napkins, and mind you, we had a lot there, but, we brought it to Yvette, and we were able to really round it out and create an entire world. With all these kind of little misfit types of characters and people kind of living in the fringes a little bit.
It was really kind of more about the have-nots, really trying to make it in this world, as opposed to those who were kind of making it and who had an education. These two women in Lush Life had gone a totally different route, the much more artistic route, for one of them, and kind of the Mary Well route for the other. So they were very different women, and it was a little bit more like Laverne and Shirley. At least that was the intent, and I think it was just a little ahead of its time. That's why it was short-lived.
Although the sitcom was short-lived, Bowser bounced back quickly with her next project, which she both created and executive produced, entitled For Your Love. This project also starred Holly Robinson Peete and Las Vegas's James LaSure. The mid-season sitcom was about love in all of its various romantic, challenging, and chaotically hilarious stages. The first show aired on NBC and was dropped by that network, but then aired 4 more seasons on Warner Brothers.
For Your Love, that was a good show. Holly Robinson Peete was in there. Oh my gosh, she is so beautiful. Like, I remember just closing my eyes and she would be the woman just running to me in my dreams. And every time right before she hugged me, someone would like wake me up. Deshaun, I'd be like, no. Try to close my eyes, get back to sleep. Never got back to sleep before I got to hug her. Holly Robinson Peete, if you get to see this, I would love to give you one hug. Kiss on cheek. Nothing, because I seen your husband. He is huge.
For Your Love for me was just kind of the natural evolution of things. I mean, I went from, being a young single woman and writing about those adventures on living single, and then I became a married woman with children, and I learned how love doesn't exist in a vacuum, that other people, friends, and family play a role in your relationship, and that was the basic premise of Your Love.
In 2000, we did a pilot together, again called The Thing About Family. And that was starring Telma Hopkins as my mother, and Gabrielle Union as my sister, and Eugene Bird as my brother.
Cindy Williams actually told Yvette about me when Yvette was casting The Thing About Family.
Out of that, that show, came another opportunity to work with Yvette again for NBC. It didn't get picked up. It was a great pilot. We had an amazing time.
Well, basically, both my husband and I have half siblings. We're our parents' only children, but we have half siblings, and so that dynamic intrigued us. And we ended up actually not being able to go with that because there were too many executives in the mix who had never experienced that. And I think to a certain degree that was kind of a cultural thing and a generational thing that they kind of didn't get. So we ended up going with them being all, full-blooded siblings. But one of my observations is that the roles we fill in our family as children we tend to fill as adults, and that things don't really change that much. So that's the thing about family. The more things change, the more they stay the same. So that was kind of the basic premise. And the pilot tested very well, and people in the test groups compared it to The Cosby Show, and we're really looking forward to it. I mean, actually, in listening to their comments, got very emotional, tearful, because they were just so full of praise and really, really were enjoying the show. And then I just think it was unfortunate that it didn't get picked up. I mean, I was kind of really devastated behind that, particularly since NAACP was talking about the lack of diversity on television and on the major networks in particular. And then they went with names that they thought were bigger.
In 2002, Bowser developed another show called Half and Half, which is currently on the UPN network. Half and Half highlights the lives of 2 half-sisters and their relationships with each of their mothers and their father in San Francisco.
But Half and Half was a concept that I actually inherited. I got a script, which was a defunct script at CBS, and they handed it to me and said, can you rewrite this and cast it and put together a pilot in 4 weeks' time? So I read the script, and I thought that there was an interesting premise there, and I reflected on it, and I thought, I have a half-sister, and we've never really known each other growing up, and we've kind of grown up in different ways with different, priorities and values, and we've become more a part of each other's lives recently, so maybe this is something I can give some life to. And, I inherited full control of it and have made it my own since.
UPN contacted Yvette and said, we want you to put together this pilot, we want you to make these characters come alive, we want you to run this show, and we need you to do it in 3 weeks. And she did it. We were the last pilot cast that year in 2002. We were the last pilot shot that year, and probably within record amounts of time we were picked up and on the air that fall.
Last year, Half and Half received its second NAACP Image Award nomination for Outstanding Comedy Series, as well as multiple cast nominations.
Well, you know, to be the first African American woman to create and run a network show is just, you know, that's a groundbreaking pioneer thing to do. And
I think other women should look up to her as a role model because she's done lots of positive things. She's done a lot of things that are big for men too. They should look up to her. Black people, women, all colors, period. She's done it.
So she has opened the door. She has mentored people like Mara Brakakil. She's given us an example of how to be.
The law of averages don't really apply to Yvette Bowser. You know, she kind of breaks those molds.
I think that the impact is that, like I said, it gives younger writers the hope that, you know what, if Yvette Lee Bowser can do it, I can do it. She paved the way so that others will feel like it's something, it's a goal that they can attain.
Well, behind the camera, I mean, I think she's opened up so much. I mean, for anyone who wants to work, any woman, black woman, who wants to work in production of any kind, and they have any awareness of her, and they start to kind of track her and learn about her, I think she would just be insanely inspirational because she inspires me. When she's in a room, nobody can dispute Yvette. You know, that's the great thing. And the more success she has that way as being, you know, a leader of and a creator of successful shows, it's much harder for people to challenge her when she wants to mix it up.
Well, it is a white male-dominated business. We know that. I think we are presenting ourselves in such a positive, forceful, and diverse way that they have to receive us. They have to open the door. For example, with the media, they don't care what's going on behind the camera anyway. They don't care about people like Yvette. They just want to talk about Lindsay Lohan going down. And, you know, I mean, you're not reading a lot of inspirational articles coming out of a lot of publications now.
How many actors and how many stories, how many producers, how many writers, black writers, producers, stories that have never been told, never will be told, and never will work inside the industry. In spite of what they say, a few of us have always succeeded. And so that will kind of sometimes look to us like we're moving forward, or things are not so bad, or things are getting better. And that's not true. We've always had those exceptional people that have succeeded. There's always been cracks that water will seep through.
Well, it's going to help the more people that we have, obviously, behind the scenes. And not just behind the scenes. I mean, what Yvette's doing is tremendous because she's not just a writer on a show, she's a creator of a show. And then she's creator of many successful shows.
And I think as black women, you have to be persistent. You have to keep at it because there's so many people trying to do this, you know, and there are a lot of talented people out there. So, but there's only so few jobs.
Yvette is doing all she can possibly do to increase the numbers of people of color in front and behind. She has done all she can possibly. She can't do anymore. And we can't depend on just one individual to do it.
And a lot of our good shows get cut off quick. I think the longest, was the Cosby's. Dr. Cosby, he's like an icon. Every other show that's good gets snipped in the butt real fast. I don't know if they want to show black people doing positive things. Must-see TV. How many black people do you see on must-see TV? None. How many appear on the episodes? None. What about Latinos? Maybe a half of one that you can't even tell is half. So it's really not fair, dude. Like even if their show is not good, it gets play.
The creative products that come out of the African American community is substandard. I think it's because we have been deprived for so long and have had the little kiddie table at the Thanksgiving celebration that we really don't know what to do. And even when we do know what to do, we take the easiest route. And this is probably a really unpopular thing to say, but I work the industry. I see it. We see the ratings. We see what gets picked up and what doesn't. And I'm really disappointed in what we do. I'm disappointed in our features more than I'm disappointed in anything else. We have a myriad of true stories to tell. But what do? We do crap. And I believe there should be a ban on crap. We should only do true stories until we've just exhausted ourselves with the phenomenal stories that come out of the African American community, and then do crap. But we concentrate on crap. And the payoff is you don't see us on television. So I blame us. I blame us that we just don't do good work.
I think TV is kind of the last of the Mohicans in terms of its diversity, in terms of the people who make the decisions. The CEOs, the presidents of networks, these people are it's still very much the old boys club. So I think part of that is also part of why we don't get the credit that we deserve.
We need to take a page out of Yvette's book and, just keep creating programming that's really good for black people, uplifting, successful. We need to look at that and go after that and do the same type of thing, mimic that. You watch her and take it and do your own style of the thing. You don't have to copy it, but you put your own spin on it. You can do successful shows. She did it. Why can't someone else do it?
I think being in a position to actually help people and bring them along, to me, is a point of personal success. Have that passion, which she has, and continue to work, continue to write, and bring others along.
She's doing the right thing. This business is going to change, and it'll change faster if the community requests that it change. But the onus is on us. We can't blame the man anymore. We now have ample opportunity to create enjoyable programming that is interesting to a wider range of. The African American middle class has been completely ignored. We have been complete, and we're the largest segment of the African American community, the middle class. And that's not reflected in television and music and features. It's not reflected. That's got to change, because I'm not so happy plopping down $9 if I have to see someone that I can't relate to. So I'm just not going to go. So we have to take ownership. We have to own up to our mistakes, and we just have to get our crap together. If we expect a change, it's now on us. The ball is in our court, and we have to change.
I know she would like to get more accolades, but I don't think that she's the type who's going to really go after it. And so you put that together with the fact that she's a black woman, if you're a black woman doing this, you're going to have to, unless it's in a black publication, you're probably going to have to seek that kind of attention.
Honestly, I just haven't seen enough publicity on these women anyway, and I'm sure that has to do with the fact that they're not white males.
That whole schedule and the juggling of it and the responsibility of it being wife, mother, showrunner, creator, is something that people just take for granted. We as women are just probably better at multitasking, I think, than men are. And so it's just kind of like, oh, well, of course she can do that because she's a woman and women can do that stuff.
The responsibility that I feel is tremendous, and yet I kind of take it on with ease. Could people acknowledge what I've done more? Maybe, but I'm okay. I'm okay with what I've had. I mean, I feel I've been, blessed beyond my wildest dreams, personally and professionally, And I never set out to do any of this for public accolades. So that stuff is really not that important to me. And then it comes. And I think when it's not, your drive and your thrust, then it unfolds for you.
Yvette Lee Bowser has become a pillar of strength and inspiration for students, actors, writers, and producers. Yvette Lee Bowser, showing strength in the struggle.